This is a Drafthouse Diary for Tuesday, November 26th, 2024, when I went to the Alamo Drafthouse at Sloan's Lake to see ANORA. I'll tell you about the movie, but stick around because I'm also going to tell you about something that has never happened before in any of my visits to the Alamo Drafthouse. Sometimes a movie is difficult to categorize. It could fit in any number of different genres or styles, or however we want to describe it, but it does not specifically live up to our preconceived notions of any of those. And sometimes that is an indication that we're dealing with some kind of brilliance. This is one of those movies. It was a romance, it was a drama, it was a comedy, it was a character sketch, maybe ultimately a character sketch, but it could have been any number of these things. And yet it subverted each of them. It didn't fully fit into any of these boxes. Our central character, ANORA, who goes by Annie, played by Mikey Madison, is a sex worker. She is a club dancer, a club hostess, and arranges to meet with clients outside of her shifts at the club. And at work one night, she meets Vanya, who is the son of a billionaire Russian oligarch. You can probably figure out where this story outline is going. They spend more and more time together. He lavishes more and more money and gifts on her. They both seem to be making a connection with the other, and eventually they get married. I say eventually, it's actually very, very quick. And a trip to Vegas on a paid exclusive week with Vanya, and she is now Vanya's wife. And you can probably make some other predictions as to where this is going to go. Eventually, his family finds out what has happened. They have other plans for Vanya, which include him going back to Russia to begin working in his father's company. And his desire not to go back to Russia may have been part of the motivation for this marriage. But how this plays out, to me at least, was not predictable. The big crisis moment where everything that they have done together is now being challenged by agents of his father and his father's billions. That is played not just for drama and pathos, that is played for comedy. Even though the movie overall hasn't really been a comedy, it's had humor, but it hasn't been a comedy up to this point. The things we might expect from the characters and their reactions, they seem very authentic, but they're not necessarily the ones that we would predict. So this is a movie that took what could have been a very formulaic story and did interesting things with it. It wasn't a perfect movie. There were points towards the middle, that conflict that I mentioned earlier, and then a long, long sequence of searching for Vanya throughout New York City. Those were too long. There was too little substance to them. And they could have been trimmed and could have been focused somewhat more. But the performances, led by Mikey Madison as Annie, are outstanding, and they help make all of these unexpected turns seem that much more believable. If you are planning to see this movie, I would mention there is a large amount of sex and nudity in this movie. But it's interesting to note how it is used. It is used to depict and underscore certain parts of a person's life, certain parts of people's relationships. It starts off making this clearly an operational detail of Annie's job. And it becomes increasingly something more between Annie and Vanya the more time they spend together. So interesting choices. They weren't afraid to show what they decided they needed to show on screen with these characters and for these lives that they were leading. But it was never gratuitous, and it always underscored what was happening. I am going to tell you about the rest of my trip to the Alamo and what happened on this visit. But in the meantime, if you like these Drafthouse Diaries, please click the like button. And if you want to see more of these as they come out, click subscribe. The pre-show very much focused on two things: the Russian aspect of the characters and story in ANORA, and also the Coney Island setting that we see in a great deal of the movie. Annie is Brooklyn, born and bred, very much a New Yorker, very much an American, though she has Russian heritage a couple of generations back. And big chunks of the movie, including some of those chunks that were too long, were set in and around Coney Island. So we get a lot of Coney Island clips going way back, probably 100 years in cinema, as part of the pre-show. We also get some dance numbers and other little bits of Russian cinema from across the decades. Also, some trailers and other things that focused more on the star-crossed romance aspect of ANORA, and also Annie's profession. So we have, including a trailer for Cinderella 2000, which is a musical anti-sex versus free love comedy of some kind. I'm pretty sure it was from the 70s. It had to be from the 70s. We also had a very interesting brief interview clip with Sean Baker, the writer-director of ANORA, about how he came to cast Mikey Madison in the title role and what he had seen her in before. And it seems like the role of Annie was, if not specifically written for Madison, very much shaped around her capabilities. I did get some dinner at this visit. I got an item from the special Wicked menu, the Shiz University Chicken Wrap, which is grilled chicken, roasted garlic aioli, goat cheese, arugula, and tomato. And I got it Wicked style, which adds bacon and cheddar. It's in a spinach tortilla if you get it Wicked style. And that was very good. I really wouldn't mind something like this kind of a chicken wrap on their menu all the time. But by the way, there have been some interesting menu changes. I'm not even sure when these happened. I might have missed these when they first occurred. But there are a few things gone. I believe it was like a regular chopped salad, no longer on the menu. The Philly sandwich, no longer on the menu. And that's kind of disappoints me. That was uneven, but lately it had been better and a little more consistent, but now it's not there at all. And also, the Philly sandwich is the only thing that was on the menu that was on that hoagie roll. And because they had those in stock, it used to be possible to get one of their other sandwiches, but ask them to put it on the hoagie roll instead of the brioche bun or whatever the sandwich normally came on, if you preferred that hoagie roll. I guess that's not going to be an option anymore because there is nothing on the menu that has that roll. Another change on the menu is that they now indicate that anything that is in the salad section of the menu, so that includes the Caesar salad and the others, it includes the addition of grilled chicken or fried chicken. You can get any of those salad options as a wrap. So maybe I will try one of those, see if we can get the equivalent of this good chicken wrap on the regular menu. Now, as to the theater and the staff was very good. I've always been very impressed with the staff at Sloan's Lake. The theater was good. This, in fact, was one of the more comfortable seats I've had at Sloan's Lake. That's a consistent problem there. Really needs renovation. But something else happened. For the first time in well over 160 visits to Alamo Drafthouses around the country. I didn't want this to happen. I had hoped it never would, and I hope it doesn't again, because it doesn't make anybody feel good. But for the first time ever, I availed myself of the Alamo's procedure for dealing with disruptive audience members. I sat down as soon as my tickets became available at the very beginning of the pre-show. And then towards the very end of the pre-show, beginning of the trailers, coming attractions, a couple came down, sat down right next to me. They brought with them a bottle of wine or Prosecco or something, evidently that they had gotten at the bar there at the Sloan's Lake Alamo. And I get the impression they had been at the bar for a little while. That's fine. That's part of the attraction of the Alamo. You can sit and have a meal and a drink. And we all sat there together and watched the Alamo's announcement about the fact that you shouldn't be talking and texting in the movie. We saw the funny little announcement. By the way, it was the one where the snake drives a car and chases a guy. I love that one. And then we saw the serious version where they make it very clear this is now a quiet zone. No talking, no texting. If you are disruptive, you may be asked to leave without a refund. If you have any trouble with a disruptive audience member around you, raise an order card and the management will do something about it. We all saw that. This couple saw that. And as the movie began, they proceeded to converse with one another through the entire movie. Not literally nonstop, but it wasn't just the occasional whisper. It was every minute or two, a little exchange back and forth between them. I could hear it probably as clearly as they could, talking with one another. They were right next to me. And it was very disruptive. It was so distracting from the movie. It's exactly what the Alamo is trying to prevent. It is exactly what the Alamo has let everyone know shouldn't be happening during a movie screening. So eventually, I even did the lean forward, make some eye contact, and they kind of sheepishly turn away. And then a minute later, they're talking with one another as if nothing had happened. So eventually, I raised an order card. And it was picked up. A few minutes later, someone from management had a few brief whispered words with this couple next to me. I presume that was the warning that the Alamo says that they will give people, but apparently the warning was enough because these people got up, left after some rude words to me from the guy, and departed. And the rest of us were able to enjoy the movie. I don't know what they expected behaving that way in a theater, which has just told you what happens if you behave that way. But that said, it didn't make me feel good. I don't want to ruin anybody else's evening. I know they're not trying to ruin my evening, but at some point, it is unfair to anybody else in the theater for people to continue like this. And so I'm curious, have you ever had to do this in an Alamo or another theater? What have you done when it came to disruptive audience members? How do you feel about it? How do you feel about the Alamo's policy? I think the Alamo's policy is a good one. I think that they explain it very well and very clearly, but I wish no one ever had to use it because I wish people were better behaved in movie theaters. And thank you for joining me for this Drafthouse Diary. It was a mixed experience. I thought the movie was very impressive. The theater experience, no fault of the theaters, but the theater experience could have been better. But I will be back soon with more. And in the meantime, enjoy your movies. And when you do, stay till the end of the credits.